68 अक्षर ये ना जानो, 68 तीर्थ सार, 8 संपदा थी परमाणु, 68 दातार, समरो मंत्र बनो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार, समरो मंत्र बनो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार। नवपद एना नवनिध आपे, भव भवना दुख कापे, वीर वचन थी हृदय व्यापे, परमतम पद आपे, समरो मंत्र बलो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार, समरो मंत्र बलो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार। एना महिमानो नहीं पार, एनो अर्थ अनंत अपार, एना महिमानो नहीं पार, एनो अर्थ अनंत अपार, समरो मंत्र भलो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार, समरो मंत्र भलो नवकार, ए छे 14 पुरवनो सार।
Pranam, Jai Janendra. Welcome to this class on our ongoing topic, Kalpa Sutra. We'll also be discussing something about the Navpad Ayambil Oli, that is currently the festival that's currently going on. Let's start with the prayers. Namo Orientanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loye Sabba Sahunam, Eso Panchana Mukkaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpramam Havai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loye Sabba Sahunam, Eso Panchana Mukkaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpramam Havai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loye Sabba Sahunam, Eso Panchana Mukkaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabbe Simpramam Havai Mangalam. Veera Sarvasura Surendra Mahito Veeramuda Sansrita Veerena Bhiyata Swakarmanichayo Veera Nityam Namah Veera Tirthamidam Pravtamatalam Veera Shigoram Tapo Veera Sri Druti Kirtikanti Nichaya Sri Veerabhadram Disa Kamuthe Dranendra Cha Sochitam Karma Kurvati Prabhusthalya Manovrutti Parshanath Sri Estuvaha Anguthe Amrutavase Laptitana Bandar Shri Guru Gautam Samariye Manavanchita Fadadatar. I'm going to share my screen now with the slides. What I want to try and explore today is some further detail on where we left off with the discussion of the time cycle last week and the unusual and extremely rare events that have occurred in this time cycle. And then we will discuss the meaning of Navpad Ayambil Oli and what we do during this 9 days, twice a year. The focus will be partly on the food and the what we do, but also on the meaning of the Navpad and what is important. and we'll leave any time for questions and answers. So if anybody has got any questions and answer, I'll stop in the middle, and if anybody wants to ask questions then, and then we'll carry on and finish the rest of the topic, and we'll have some time for questions at the end of that as well. You've seen the slides before. Okay. Last week, we ended with the question of the story of Megh Kumar, and that was recited in the context of the sutra from Namuthunam Sutra that Indra Maharaja recites as soon as he knows about the conception of Tirthankar Paramatma. And the verse, the particular sentence that in the context of which this story is recited is Dham Sarhinam. So Tirthankar Paramatma is like the charioteer who leads us into the right path, Dharmana Sarthi. And the story of Megh Kumar is given to illustrate how when we are failing or when we are losing our path and are in the danger of spoiling the welfare of our soul, Bhagwan's Vani, the teachings of Bhagwan Mahavir and all our Tirthankars, how that helps us get back onto the right path. The topic about the 10 extremely rare events in this Ausarpini, so this descending time cycle, the half that we are living in now. And we'll discuss some of those in a bit more detail. And if there are any other questions, is there anybody who's got something burning that they want to try and understand before we move on? No? Okay. Right. Okay. So message from Pratibha. Thank you. We hope you have a good time and carry on with your spiritual journey while you are in India. Okay.
Yes, and I'll send you my number, and if you come there, please do contact me because you usually are there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, some of the things to understand what the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika mentions is that this unusual events that have occurred in this time cycle are extremely rare, meaning that nature runs a particular course with rules that are set not by anybody, but those are natural laws and things work according to them. But in this Ausarpini, some very unusual things happen. And this is in the context of the important events that are of universal importance, not individual life events, but they are related to individuals, obviously, but individuals who are extremely important, but also something that has sort of deviated from the natural laws that have occurred, the explanation for this series of events in this Ausarpini is that this is a particularly difficult Ausarpini that we are living in, and therefore this very unusual events have occurred, and it's called a Hundak Ausarpini, meaning that it is difficult. The other thing to remember is that what we experienced, so this is the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika mentions this, and this is a question in my mind that has been answered, that whatever unusual events, the 10 unusual events that we experienced in this Bharat Kshetra, similar, not exactly the same nature, but unusual events did occur in the other five Airavat Kshetras and the other 4 Bharat Kshetras. So in total, because of the nature of the time, these unusual events have been duplicated across all the 10 Kshetras in the universe. So what were the nature of the unusual events in the other Bharat Kshetras and in the other Airavat Kshetras is something that I do not, I've not seen any reference to. It is possible that there is some text somewhere that does detail those as well, and it's only somebody with great knowledge of our Shastras would be able to tell us that. But I don't know. What it mentions in the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika is that consider similar unusual events having occurred in the other Bharat and Airavat Kshetras. Now, the events occurred during the times of the different Tirthankars, and here there is a mention of which events occurred in which Tirthankar Paramatma's time. But again, the important thing to remember is that 5 of these unusual events occurred in this particular Tirth of Bhagwan Mahavir. What it says is that thus Achera is unusual events. That is the Gujarati word that is used. Unusual, rare. I mean, I think unusual is a misnomer in this context. Because the rarity of these events is something that we can only imagine, because this may occur after Anant Chovisi or Anant Kal, Anant Utsarpini and Ausarpini. So after a very, very long time, generally in all Chovisis, in all Ausarpini, Utsarpini, a certain set of rules are followed and none of these unusual events occur. So દસ અછેરા કયા કયા તીર્થંકરોના વખતમાં થયા તે કહેવામાં આવે છે. So basically, in which Tirthankar Paramatma's time did these unusual events occur? So there is one unusual event where 108 souls of the same Avgahan. Avgahan means that their body size is in their life as Manushya, as Muni Bhagwans, was at the maximum that there could be, and 108 of those Utkrust Avgahan Vara Atmao Mokshma Gaya, meaning at the same moment. So 108 went to Moksha together. That may happen, but for all of them being of the same maximum height as far as the body is concerned. And this happened during the time of Bhagwan Rushabdev. 108 एक समय सिद्ध थया. So Bhagwan Rushabdev, 99 of his sons, except for Bharat Chakravarti, and 8 other grandsons, they all, I think the grandsons were Bharat's children, they went to moksha at the same moment. Okay. The development of Harivansh school, I briefly mentioned this story, but maybe if you have time, I will recite this again. The development of a particular lineage of great people happened at the time of Bhagwan Shitalnath, the 10th Tirthankar. And so that particular school developed at that time. The incident where Krishna, Vasudev, or Krishna, the Krishna Vasudev crosses the huge ocean to go and help Draupadi, who was abducted by a king of another kshetra. So not in the Bharat kshetra, he had to cross the ocean, a huge ocean of Lavan Samudra, to reach that place. And he did that with the help of some devs to go and rescue Draupadi and bring her back. And at the time, Krishna Vasudev, who was the Vasudev of our Bharat Kshetra, though not physically, but through the exchange of the sound of their shank, meets the other Vasudev who was present at that time. I mean, it is absolutely unusual or impossible that any Vasudevs from one kshetra meet another one from another kshetra. So that doesn't happen. So Krishna Vasudevanu Upper Kankama Javu. So he goes to this city called Upper Kanka. That happened in the time of Bhagwan Nemnath. The birth of a Stri Tirthankar, Bhagwan Malinath, that was extremely rare. I mean, that is again an exception. Then there was one other unusual event called Asanyatiyoni Puja. So those who are not Nirgrants or Munis, who have not taken Diksha and who are sort of living as householders with all the amenities, but any puja thayal, those were considered to be pujniya, meaning people were worshipping them. That happened in the time of Bhagwan Suvidinath. The rest of the 5, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th all happened during the time of Bhagwan Mahavir. And I briefly describe them because we're going to discuss a couple of them today. Okay. Now, how does this description start in the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika? So, as we heard last time, as Saudharmendra, the Indra, gets to know through the use of his Audignan that Tirthankar Paramatma's soul has been born into the womb of Devananda Brahmin, wife of Rushabdat. He bows down to Bhagwan Mahavir at a distance and recites the Namuthunam Sutra with great respect. This has happened. Then after a few days, he begins to reflect that this is very unusual, that a Tirthankar Paramatma's soul has been born into a Brahmin kul, and that is something that never happens. The birth of Bhagwan Mahavir was predicted by the other Tirthankars and the other Kevalgnanis in those times, so that was known that that was going to happen. But the fact that he would actually be first conceived in the womb of a Brahmin wife of the wife of a Brahmin was extremely unusual, and Indra Maharaja contemplates on this, and in this context there is a recitation of this being an extremely unusual event and what other unusual events occurred during this Ausarpini. So that is how the all these 10 events are described in the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika. Now, the first of this, the conception of Bhagwan Mahavir in the Brahman Kul, why did that happen? Normally, a Tirthankar Paramatma is generally would always be born in a royal household of kings and rulers in the most sort of auspicious and most well-known lineage. So a lot of the Tirthankar Paramatmas were born in the same lineage as Bhagwan Rishabhdev. And there is a long history of big, strong, powerful kings in whose household the other Tirthankar Paramatmas were born, and that is a rule that all Tirthankar Paramatmas are born in royal households. The fact that Bhagwan Mahavir was born in this school, and the second unusual event was that then Indra decides that this is unusual, this will not, that I must do something to undo this. And because the nature of Bhagwan Mahavir's karma that had resulted in this birth for the first 3 months in the womb of Devananda Brahmin lady, he decides to transfer the embryo into Trisla Mata's womb with the help of Harin Gameshi Dev. You all probably have seen the images of this, and this story is recited during Paryushan and in other context as well. So you have probably all heard it. So these were the two first unusual events in this time cycle. The kul in which we are born, or the family in which we are born, is decided by what is known as Gotra Karma. Gotra Karma is whether we are born in a family with important and generally a happy and a fairly wealthy and stable household, which by its very nature gives you good chances in life, makes your life stable, and makes your life one in which difficulties are, or huge difficulties are not very common. So but just by the nature of the society in which you are born, or the kind of family you are born, that gives you great privilege. And if you're born in a household or a school which has faced difficulties, which by its very nature is not considered to be very high up or wealthy or well respected in society, there are difficulties that go along with that particular kind of birth. And that will never go away. I mean, we do talk about equality of everybody, and we should practice that. But in reality, the nature of our karmas decides how much respect and what kind of background we are born in. Bhagwan Mahavir had acquired a niche Gotra karma during his third life that is described. So we will be describing the 27 lives of Bhagwan Mahavir, and in his third life as Marichi, who was the grandson of Bhagwan Rushabdev and the son of Bharat Chakravarti, there is this particular incident that I'm going to recite now, where Marichi, becomes extremely proud and joyous at the fact that his particular kul, his particular lineage was so great and so high that he dances with joy and says, "Oh, I'm from such a great family that there is so many things of universal importance that are going to occur in my lineage. So I am so proud and I am so fortunate that I'm born in this kind of a family." So this pride in where you're born actually pushed his soul into acquiring what is called a niche gotra karma. And a result of that, he does not get the same privileges in subsequent lives, but a part of that karma, lasting about 3 months, was left in this particular, when he was conceived as Bhagwan Mahavir in Devananda Brahmani's womb. So that is why he had to suffer the birth or conception in the womb of a Brahmin lady. And we may argue why this, and this is not fair, but we are talking about laws of nature. We are talking about the laws of karma. And even a Tirthankar Paramatma soul has to go through this. And the question of equality and inequality may come along, but the privilege that one would get in a Brahmin's family and the privilege that one would get in a royal family, the prestige, the respect from people would all be significantly different. So therefore, in that respect, it was a niche gotra karma that resulted in him suffering this particular event. And obviously, as we know, Indra decided to correct this anomaly, and he ordered Haringameshi Dev to transfer the womb, and Haringameshi Dev did that. The other event that was very unusual that also happened to Bhagwan Mahavir was that normally a Tirthankar Paramatma, after achieving Keval Gnan and establishing the Tirth, would not suffer any major upsarga. So we all know that for the 12.5 years, from the age of 30, when Bhagwan Mahavir took Diksha and became a monk, for 12.5 years until he achieved Keval Gnan, he suffered huge number of extremely painful, difficult upsarg or great difficulties where people were challenging him, trying to harm him, hurt him. And there were some very, very major events that occurred, and we all heard about some of them, the worst of which was the upsarg that was done by Sangam Dev. However, there was one particular upsarg that did occur after Bhagwan Mahavir achieved Keval Gnan, and the story about that is something that I'll tell you in a minute. But let's just go back to what happened when Bhagwan Mahavir's soul, as in his third life, jumps up with joy and pride at the fact that he was born in such a great kul or such a great family. So once Bharat Chakravarti, Bhagwan Rushabdev's son, who was the first Chakravarti, goes to Bhagwan Rushabdev and asks him, is there any other soul around at this time who is going to become a future Tirthankar? So Bhagwan Rushabdev tells him that your own son Marichi will become a Chakravarti. He will also become a Vasudev. So he'll become a Chakravarti and then will become a Triprusht Vasudev. And also he will be the 24th Tirthankar of this Chovisi. And Bharat Chakravarti is very impressed and he goes to Marichi, who is now a monk, and joins his hand and bows down to him and tells him that I've come to pay my respects to you, not in the form that you are in now. So by this time, Marichi, and we will come to this story as well, Marichi had discarded the rules and the vows of a Jain monk, Muni, and he had adopted some exceptions to make his life more comfortable. So he had taken on a slightly different path and he called himself Tridandi. And we'll come to the details of that when we come to that particular story. So he was not a Nirgranth Muni, he was not a proper Sadhu Bhagwant following the 5 great vows. So Bharat Chakravarti tells him that I am not paying my respects or bowing down to you in this form that you are in as a Tridandi sannyasi. I am bowing down to you as the future 24th Tirthankar of this Chovisi. And then he tells him what Bhagwan Rushabdev had said, that you will be a Chakravarti and you will be a Vasudev and then you will be the 24th Tirthankar. So Bharat Chakravarti's son Marichi, about whom we are talking about, who is in the Marichi is the third life of Bhagwan Mahavir. He jumps up in joy and says, oh, my family and my kul is so great that my grandfather is the first Tirthankar. My father is the first Chakravarti. I will be a Chakravarti in the future. I'll also be a Tripurusht Vasu. I will also be a Vasudev, and I'll be the 24th Tirthankar. And such greatness in my family, I'm so proud of it. And at that time, the pride actually ensured that he acquires a niche gotra karma that came into fruition in the 24th life as Bhagwan Mahavir. The upsarga that Bhagwan Mahavir suffered at the hands of one of his previous disciple called Goshalak. This is what happened. And you've probably also seen images of this. Goshalak was somebody who stayed with Bhagwan Mahavir during his time in sadhana. During those 12.5 years, he followed and stayed with Bhagwan Mahavir for about 6 years. His name was Gosalak. his father was somebody called Mankhli Putra, Mankhli, and he was the son of that, and he was born in sort of a stable with lots of cows. That's why he got the name of Gosalak. One day he saw Bhagwan Mahavir and decided that this was a great man to follow, and he just started following him. Bhagwan Mahavir was not taking any disciples at that stage because he had not yet achieved Keval Gnan, and he was not formally giving any sermons. All Tirthankars do not start giving any sermons until they achieve Keval Gnan and they establish the Tirth. So they don't preach to anybody, but Gosalak just follows. And there are lots of interesting stories about Gosalak, and he was in many ways a mischievous and a naughty character who often got into trouble because of his nature of trying to tease people. And he also got into difficulties that somebody called Siddharth Yaksh, who was looking after Bhagwan Mahavir at the instruction from Indra. So Bhagwan Mahavir had no particular desire for anybody to look after him in those 12 and a half years. But there are lots of stories of where this Yaksh actually helps Goshalak to save him from the different kinds of difficulties that he had got himself into with people. Now, Goshalak once saw a tapas who had acquired a particular power called Tejolesha, which allows that tapas to throw out a wave or something is extremely hot and burn any particular object or person that he desired, and he sees a demonstration of this in an event that occurred, and he then asks Bhagwan Mahavir, how does one acquire this particular power? So Bhagwan Mahavir teaches him the vidhi or the method by which he can acquire that power. And here the question may arise that if Bhagwan Mahavir knew about the possible future, why did he teach him this thing? But that is what was to happen, and Bhagwan Mahavir did teach him that. So Gosalak learns that, and he learns a lot of other things at the feet of Bhagwan Mahavir. And after some time, when Bhagwan Mahavir has achieved Keval Gnan and established the Tirth, and because he has learned the art of prediction, he has learned the Jyotish Shastra and a lot of the other Shastras, he calls himself as somebody who is also a jinn or somebody who knows, who's got Keval Gnan. And he says that I am also a Tirthankar like Bhagwan Mahavir. So one day, Guru Gautam, having heard this out in the place that they were there, he says, what is the truth behind this Goshalak who is announcing himself as another jinn, another Tirthankar? Who is he? And Bhagwan Mahavir explains to Guru Gautam that the background about Goshalak and how he has acquired this knowledge, and therefore he is calling himself as somebody who knows everything. And this word then spreads into the community that no, Goshalak is not actually a Tirthankar or a jinn, and that he is falsely claiming this. Goshalak obviously hears of this and becomes extremely angry, and he has a lot of jealousy, irsha towards Bhagwan Mahavir. And one day he meets one of his disciples called Anand, who is around, and tells him that go back and tell your Guru Bhagwan, Bhagwan Mahavir, that I'm not happy with this misinformation that I'm not a jinn that has been spreading, and I will come to take some action on that. So Anand then goes back and tells this to Bhagwan Mahavir, and Bhagwan Mahavir, knowing what would happen, warns all his Muni Bhagwans and Guru Gautam that Goshalak, is going to come to the Samvatsara very soon, but please make sure that none of you react to whatever he says. Now, Bhagwan Mahavir instructed all his disciples and everybody. Goshalak comes there, stands in front of Bhagwan Mahavir in the Samvatsaran, and some of you have probably seen the images of this, and throws abuse at Bhagwan Mahavir. And some of Bhagwan Mahavir's disciples just could not bear this and started protesting and replying to what Goshalak was saying. Bhagwan Mahavir obviously responded by saying that, no, the truth is that you do not have any other special knowledge. You are not Kevalgnani, you are not a Tirthankar. And he calmly, peacefully, as a Vitrag Tirthankar Paramatma, explains this to him, but this further infuriates Goshalak. And when these other two Munis began to protest, Goshalak throws Tejolesha at them, and the two of them, the Muni Bhagwans, burn on the spot and die and go to Swarg. But that Tejolesha that is then sent towards Bhagwan Mahavir travels around Bhagwan Mahavir. It doesn't have the power to harm Bhagwan Mahavir severely, and returns back and enters into Goshalak's body and completely damages Goshalak. And Goshalak becomes so unwell that he has to leave from there. But Bhagwan Mahavir, having suffered this intense heat of this wave of heat that has encircled him, suffers from bloody diarrhea for about 6 months afterwards. And there's a story of how that is relieved by a special medicine that was created by one of the Shravikas. So, and Bhagwan Mahavir was not particularly seeking a cure, but his Muni Bhagwans saw the pain and the difficulties and urged him to tell them what the cure of this was. And then he explains to them that there is medicine that has been prepared by this particular Shravika, and if you can get that, then that will relieve this particular illness that I have developed as a result of this Tejolesha. So this particular wave of heat is called Tejolesha. And that happens, but he suffers for about 6 months. He had no particular desire to find a cure, obviously as a Vitarag, but to lay the anxieties of his disciples, he tells them this particular cure that did exist. So the fact that Bhagwan Mahavir suffered a particular upsarg after having achieved Keval Gnan was most unusual. No Tirthankar would normally suffer any upsarg after they had achieved Keval Gnan. So that was the third of the 4 unusual events that we were going to talk about. Incidentally, Goshalak suffers from the extreme heat that his body had absorbed as a result of this Tejolesha entering his body, and he suffers severely for about 7 days afterwards. And towards the end of his life, he begins to realize, when he's got some time left, he reflects on what he has done, and he really repents the very bad behavior and extremely wrong conduct of how he had behaved with Bhagwan Mahavir and what he had said and the falsehoods that he had spread out in the community. And he tells his disciples that at my death, let it be known that I was wrong. Let it be known that I had actually said all that was so many things that were not right, and demonstrated to the public that I am not somebody that they should hold in reverence. I'm not somebody that they should respect. So to demonstrate that, he says, pull me around the city when I am dead, pull my body behind a donkey as a sign of disrespect on the streets, and announce to people who I was and all the bad things that I'd done. So people would understand and realize what was wrong, and they would not hold him in high esteem. So he's basically making sure, and as a result of this transformation in his mindset, at least temporarily, he achieves a good life in his next birth as a Dev, but all the subsequent bad karmas that he acquired during the rest of his life obviously will come into fruition, and he will suffer a very, very long time. Exactly what happens to him is also described in the Trisashti Shalaka Purush Charitra and his subsequent lives. There is a great detail about that. The fourth unusual event that we will briefly discuss now, and then I'll open up the floor for some questions before we finish, that Bhagwan Malinath was born in the female form. That is also extremely rare, and that generally never occurs. But that did occur in this particular time cycle, and we had a Stri Tirthankar Paramatma. And there is a story behind that, which we actually talked about several months ago when Jayeshbhai was away. It was in one of the Sunday satsangs that I had done. So we had the story of Bhagwan Malinath. The YouTube video of that may still be available on the Oshwal website. I won't go into the details of that story. Again, there are others that I've not described here in detail, but maybe if you got some time, we will go into that. Some of them are very interesting, and they bring forth different aspects of what happens when people try and manipulate things. So the particular story about the development of Harivan school is also very interesting, when one particular Dev decides to punish a couple who had done bad unto him in their previous life, and decides to punish them in such a way that ensures their future downfall. And he does that as a Dev, and what he does creates what is called the Harivansh school in our Ausarpini. So maybe at some stage in the future, I'll recite that particular incident in greater detail. Okay. Before we go into the Navpad and Ayambil Oli, any questions so far? If somebody has got any question? Okay. No, there wasn't a question. It was Pratibha Ben's number in India. Any questions?
અજયભાઈ, જય જિનેન્દ્ર પૂછું?
હા, બોલો.
હા, એટલે તમે જે પેલા વાત કરી અનયુઝ્યુઅલ ઇવેન્ટમાં કે 108 વૃષભદેવના પુત્રોને ગ્રાન્ડ સન્સ એટલે
હા.
બધા સાથે ગયા મોક્ષમાં.
ઉત્કૃષ્ટ અવગાહન વાળા. સો દેટ ઇઝ ધી ટર્મ. ઉત્કૃષ્ટ અવગાહન એટલે ધી સાઇઝ ઓફ ધી બોડી. એટલે બધાનો
હા
500 ધનુષની કાયા હોય એક સાથે. એટલા બધા આત્માઓ ઉત્કૃષ્ટ અવગાહન વાળા એક સાથે મોક્ષમાં ન જાય.
હા એટલે એ અનયુઝ્યુઅલ એટલે કહેવાય છે કે એક સરખી કાયા હતી એટલે, કારણ કે
એટલે હા
નહીતર બીજી વાર્તા એમ પણ આવે છે ને કે ગૌતમ સ્વામી એ જેમને ખીર પીરસી હતી
હા,
એ બધા 500 સાધુ પણ સાથે મોક્ષમાં ગયા.
હા. એટલે એ બધાને ત્યારે સાથે કેવળ જ્ઞાન થયું 1500 ને.
ઓ કેવળ જ્ઞાન થયું.
હા.
અચ્છા,
અને પછી
સાથે જ.
મોક્ષમાં ક્યારે ગયા એ મને ચોક્કસ એનો ઇન્સિડન્ટ હશે, પણ એમાં 1500 તાપસો હતા જે ગૌતમ સ્વામી સાથે અષ્ટાપદ તીર્થથી પાછા આવતા હતા.
હમ, હમ, હમ.
અને અષ્ટાપદ તીર્થમાં એ લોકો ગૌતમ સ્વામી જે રીતે અષ્ટાપદ તીર્થ ઉપર ચડતા હતા એ જોઈ અને એ સરપ્રાઈઝ થયા કે અમે આટલો વખત સુધી અહીંયા તપસ્યા કરીએ છીએ મોક્ષ મેળવવા માટે, અને અમે આનાથી વધારે ઉપર નથી ચડી શકતા. તો આ ગૌતમ સ્વામી તો કાંઈ ઓર્ડિનરી રસ્તા ઉપર ચાલતા એમ અષ્ટાપદ તીર્થ પર આમ ઉડતા હોય એ રીતે જતા જાય છે. એટલે આ ખરેખર કોઈ સિદ્ધ પુરુષ છે. એટલે પાછા નીચે આવે ત્યારે એમની સાથે આપણે વાત કરી અને એમને ફોલો કરવા જેવા છે. કારણ કે મોક્ષનો રસ્તો આપણે તો આટલો વખત મહેનત કરી તો નથી મળ્યું, પણ એમને એ ખબર હશે. એટલે ગૌતમ સ્વામી ત્યાં અષ્ટાપદ તીર્થ ઉપર 24 તીર્થંકર પરમાત્માની મૂર્તિના દર્શન કરી, દેવો સાથે વાત કરી અને ફરી પાછા નીચે આવે છે ત્યારે આ 1500 તાપસો એમને ઊભા રાખે છે અને એમની સાથે પછી વાત કરે છે. અને ગૌતમ સ્વામી એમને પ્રતિબોધ કરીને કહે છે કે હવે તમારે આગળ વધવું હોય તો ચાલો દીક્ષા લ્યો મારા ગુરુ ભગવાન સાથે. તો કે એમના તમને ગુરુ પાસે હું લઈ જાઉં. એટલે ભગવાન મહાવીર પાસે લઈ આવે છે. અને ભગવાન મહાવીરનું દૂરથી સંવત્સરણ જોતા 500 ને કેવળ જ્ઞાન થાય છે. બીજા 500 ને ત્યાંથી વધારે નજીક આવતા કેવળ જ્ઞાન થાય છે. અને છેલ્લા 500 ને પછી સંવત્સરણમાં એન્ટર થતા કેવળ જ્ઞાન થાય છે. એટલે 1500 ને વિધિન અ શોર્ટ ટાઈમ કેવળ જ્ઞાન થઈ જાય છે.
ઓકે ઓકે, તમારે કન્ફ્યુઝ થઈ ગઈ છું આખી સ્ટોરીમાં એટલે. અને તમે જે વાત બીજી અનયુઝ્યુઅલ ઇવેન્ટ શીતલનાથની કરી હું સમજી ના શકી, એ જાક રિપીટ ક્વિકલી કરશો?
હવે
શીતલનાથ પ્રભુના વખતમાં શું અનયુઝ્યુઅલ ઇવેન્ટ હતી?
અસંયતીઓની પૂજા એટલે સોરી, શીતલનાથ ભગવાનના એ હરિવંશ કુળની ઉત્પત્તિ, સોરી, જે અસંયતીઓની પૂજા એ સુવિધિનાથ ભગવાનના હરિવંશ કુળની ઉત્પત્તિ. અગેન તમે પૂછ્યું છે તો એ વાત તમને કરી દઉં. બેસિકલી એક રાજા એકવાર એના કોઈ સભ્ય, એટલે એના કોઈ જ્યાં રાજ કરતા હતા ત્યાં એના કોઈ માણસની પત્ની એકદમ રૂપવાળી સ્વરૂપવાન હતી. એને જોઈ અને આ રાજાને એના ઉપર મોહ થઈ ગયો અને એને એ એબડક્ટ કરી અને રાજમહેલમાં લઈ આવ્યા. રાજમહેલમાં લઈ આવી અને એની સાથે રહેવા લાગ્યા. એને પોતાની રાણી બનાવી, પત્ની બનાવી. અને આ રાણીને શરૂઆતમાં તો પ્રોટેસ્ટ જ હતો, પણ કે અહીંયાથી કોઈ એસ્કેપ કરવાની કોઈ શક્યતા નથી. એટલે પછી એ બંને સાથે રહે છે. મીનવાઇલ એનો જે પતિ હતો એ એના પત્નીના વિયોગમાં એટલો બધો દુઃખી થઈ ગયો, એટલો બધો પાગલ હતો એના પ્રેમમાં, અને દુઃખી થઈ ગયો કે મારી પત્નીને આ રાજા આવી રીતે હરી ગયો. અને એકદમ એ ગુસ્સે થાય છે અને એ તકલીફમાં પાગલ થઈ ગયો. અને પાગલ થઈને ફરતો ફરતો રાજાને રાણી ઝરૂખામાં બેઠા હતા. એટલે કે આ એની પત્ની, જે પેલાની એની પત્ની હતી, અને રાજા, ત્યાં એ બંને આને જુએ છે અને બંનેને અફસોસ થાય છે કે અમે આ બહુ ખરાબ કામ કર્યું કે જે રાજાએ કે પરસ્ત્રી ગમન કર્યું અને રાણીએ કે મેં પણ આની સાથે રહેવાનું શરૂ કર્યું અને મારા પતિની બિચારાની શું આવી હાલત થઈ છે. એટલે બંનેને દયા આવે છે અને એ વખતે ઉછિંતાનું જસ્ટ એટ ધેટ મોમેન્ટ આ લોકોના મનમાં આવો પશ્ચાતાપનો વિચાર છે, એટલે કે સારા ભાવ થયા છે મનમાં, ત્યારે જ કાંઈ વીજળી પડે છે, એટલે કે લાઇટનિંગ થાય છે અને બંનેને ત્યાં ને ત્યાં જ મૃત્યુ થઈ જાય છે. હવે રાજા ને રાણીનું બંનેનું મૃત્યુ થયું. હવે સારા ભાવમાં એ લોકોનું મૃત્યુ થયું એટલે બીજો ભાવ બંનેને યુગલિક તરીકે, જ્યાં એ વખતે યુગલિક ક્ષેત્ર હતું ત્યાં આગળ બંનેનો યુગલિક તરીકે જન્મ થાય છે. એટલે કે ભાઈ બહેન તરીકે ઉત્પન્ન થાય અને પતિ પત્ની તરીકે રીએ. અને બહુ સરસ આપણે જેમ ગઈ વખતે વાત કરી હતી,
એટલે યુગલિકનું તો ખબર છે. એટલે વાંધો નહીં.
અકસાઈ જીવન હોય એટલે ત્યાંથી મરીને ચોક્કસ પાછા સ્વર્ગમાં જાય. હવે આ જે એનો હસબન્ડ છે એને એકવાર જોયું કે આ બે મરી ગયા, તો હા એટલીસ્ટ લોકોએ ખરાબ કામ કર્યું એટલે મરી ગયા, કે વાત પતી. અને પછી એને સંસારથી વૈરાગ્ય આવે છે અને એ તાપસ થઈ અને ઘણું બધું તપ કરે છે. એના પરિણામે બીજા ભાવમાં યક્ષ થાય છે. યક્ષ થઈ અને એ વિચાર એના અવધિ જ્ઞાનથી, વિભંગ જ્ઞાનથી, જેનો મિથ્યાત્વ સાથે જ્ઞાન હોય એને વિભંગ જ્ઞાન કે, એને અવધિ જ્ઞાન ના કે, વિભંગ જ્ઞાનથી એ જુએ છે કે એના જે પૂર્વભવની પત્ની અને જેની સાથે લગ્ન કર્યા તે રાજા બંને યુગલિક ક્ષેત્રમાં બંનેનો જન્મ થયો છે. અને એ વિચાર કરે છે કે આ યુગલિક તરીકે જન્મ્યા છે, અહીંયાથી મરીને ફરી પાછા એ સ્વર્ગમાં જશે. એટલે યુગલિક તરીકે એ સુખ ભોગવે છે અને ફરી પાછા એ સ્વર્ગમાં જશે તો ત્યાં એ સુખ ભોગવશે. અને હું આટલું બધું દુઃખી થયો, મને આટલું બધું એ લોકોએ દુઃખ આપ્યું, અને હજી એ પાછા એ લોકો ફરી સુખી થશે તો એ મારાથી સહન કેમ થાય? તો આઈ મસ્ટ એન્જિનિયર સમથિંગ ટુ મેક શ્યોર કે એ આ જન્મ પછી સ્વર્ગમાં ન જાય. એટલે એ શું કરે છે, પોતાની શક્તિથી આ બંનેને એબડક્ટ કરી, બંનેના શરીરની સાઇઝ ચેન્જ કરી. યુગલિક કાળમાં કોઈ પણ વ્યસન ન હોય, કંઈ પણ દુઃખ ન હોય, એ બંનેના રૂપ તો યુગલિક તરીકે તો એકદમ અદ્ભુત હોય. બંનેને એપ્રોપ્રિએટ સાઇઝ કરી એ લોકોને મનુષ્ય સાધારણ ક્ષેત્રમાં જ્યાં નોર્મલ રૂલ્સ ચાલતા હોય ત્યાં બંનેને રાજા ને રાણી તરીકે સ્થાપિત કરી દીધા. અને ત્યાં બંને એક પછી એક જુદા જુદા વ્યસનોમાં એકદમ ગરકાવ થઈ ગયા, કારણ કે યુગલિક ક્ષેત્રની અંદર આવું બીજું કાંઈ પાપમય જીવન ન હોય. અહીંયા તો ઘણા બધા પાપ કરવાનું બધું એ લોકોને રાજા રાણી તરીકે બધું છૂટ થઈ ગઈ. એટલે એ લોકોએ ત્યાં ઘણું બધું પાપ કર્યું અને પછી મરીને નરકમાં ગયા. અને આ બંને ના યુગલિક રાજા રાણી એનું જે કુળ સ્થપાણું એ હરિવંશ કુળ થયું. એટલે હરિવંશ કુલની ઉત્પત્તિ એ અછેરું છે. સો યુગલિક મનુષ્ય ક્યારે નરકમાં ન જાય, that happened in this time and this was the way, the method by which it happened.
ઓકે, એટલે જે યક્ષ એ લોકોને રાજા રાણીનું જે પદ આપીને કોઈ ઈ કુળ આખું હરિવંશ થઈ ગયું.
હા.
ઓકે, થેન્ક યુ. એટલે આ શીતલનાથ ભગવાનના વખતમાં થયું.
હા.
ઓકે.
વિજલ, તમારો કઈ ક્વેશ્ચન હતો?
થેન્ક યુ.
પ્રણામ, જય જિનેન્દ્ર. તમે કીધું કે ભગવાન મહાવીરનો મરીચીનો ભાવ થર્ડ ભાવ હતો ને એનું જે નીચ ગોત્રનું ફ્રુઇશન આવ્યું એના લાસ્ટ ભાવમાં. Do you know roughly કેટલો ટાઈમ હશે between the two? કે
huge amount of time. ભગવાન ઋષભદેવ ના આપણે ત્રીજા આરાના અંતમાં ને આ લગભગ ચોથા આરાના અંતમાં.
ઓકે.
એટલે ચોથો આરો લગભગ Koda Kodi Sagarupam minus 42,000 years. Atle ek Koda Kodi Sagarupam, atle you can't put a number to it. It's a huge amount of time. Atle વખત સુધી એ થોડું ઘણું કર્મ સત્તામાં પડેલું રહી ગયું, એ ત્યારે ઉદયમાં આવ્યું.
ને તમે કીધું કે નોર્મલી કેવલ જ્ઞાન થઈ જાય પછી ઉપસર્ગ ના આવે.
હા.
Is that because બધું એ લોકોનું ક્લિયર થઈ ગયું હોય ઈ પહેલા
હા,
કર્મ?
generally. એટલે આવું સિવિયર અશુભ કર્મ હજી બાકી ન હોય. કેવળ જ્ઞાન થાય એટલે 4 ઘાતી કર્મ તો ક્ષય થઈ ગયા હોય, પણ અઘાતી કર્મ, વેદનીય કર્મ હજી બાકી હોય. સાતા વેદનીય જ જનરલી હોય, પણ આવું અનયુઝ્યુઅલ મહાવીર ભગવાનના જીવનમાં બન્યું કે હજી બાકી રહી ગયું હશે કર્મ, એટલે ત્યારે ઉદયમાં આવ્યું. That was the unusual nature of that. And that is the nature of the time that we are living in.
And Vasudev ne Chakravarti, is that Devlokna pad?
No. Vasudeva and Chakravarti are Manushya. Chakravarti is the king of the whole of that particular kshetra. એટલે ભરત ક્ષેત્રમાં જે 6 ખંડ કહે છે, not the 6 khand that we know, the 6 continents. It's a much greater landmass. એના જે રાજા હોય એ ચક્રવર્તી હોય. And Chakravarti ke, they set out to conquer, and they have a lot of help from devs, and they got some very special ratno. 14 રત્નો એના હોય, 9 નિધિ હોય. એ ચક્રવર્તી હોય, અને વાસુદેવ is the king or emperor of 3 of those continents out of the 6. And so Bhagwan Mahavir was Triprusht Vasudev, Krishna was a Vasudev, Lakshman was a Vasudev.
And is that also up to the 4th hour only?
Yeah.
They only exist until then.
Yeah. આ બધા શલાકા પુરુષ કહેવાય. શલાકા પુરુષ એટલે કે they are great souls.
Yeah.
અને it's again there are only a limited number of Chakravarti, Baladev, Vasudev and Prati Vasudev in a particular time cycle. And these are all described, including the 24 Tirthankars, in the 360 Shalaka Purush Charitra by Hemchandracharya.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more questions on the chat, Mira?
No questions sent to me.
No. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next slide. As you all know, we are currently in the Aso Mas Ayambil Oli. Today is day 5. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And this Ayambil Oli comes twice a year in Chaitra Mas and Aso Mas. And in this Oli, if you listen to Jayeshbhai's lecture, they would be in all the sanghs throughout India and wherever this is celebrated, there would be discussion on the different pad for each day. So 1 pad per day. And there would be discussion or the recitation of Maina Sundari's story, Sripad Rajano Ras, that would be recited as well as part of the So that would be referred to. It wouldn't be fully recited because it's quite a long text, but some people do read it quite extensively. And the importance of each of the 9 pads is recited, and the other part of it is obviously the difference in the food that we eat during that time. So the 9 pads are Arihant, Siddh, Acharya, Upadhyay, Sadhu, and then Darshan, Gnan, Charitra, and Tap. The Ayambil Tap instructs you to exclude the 6 vigas from the food that you eat. And as you all know, the people who do the tap would only eat once a day, and all the food would not be exclude the following items. So doodh, ghee, dahi, so yogurt, milk, ghee, tel, sugar, and all fried foods. All those would be excluded from your diet. And what is shown here is some very simple food. Magnu pani, looks like kadu kadiyato there, looks like mug on the side, and then there is a rotli, and that would be made without any mon, without using any oil. And this you would, if you're doing the whole Oli, then you would eat this kind of food for 9 days. This comes twice a year. The Ayambil Olis are permanent, meaning that they are saswat, that in all times the Navpad Ayambil Oli has existed, and this is the sequence. They occur at the change of seasons twice a year, last for 9 days. The other attais that we have, for example, Paryushan, are not saswat. So Paryushan is peculiar to our times at this time. We not always have a similar festival, but the Ayambil Olis will always be there. This one, the Aso Mas, usually falls in September, October. The Chaitra Mas Oli will come in March, April every year. So, again, very briefly, what is Navpad? Arihant, Siddh, Acharya, Upadhyay, and Sadhu. The importance of understanding the nature of all these entities. I mean, we obviously recite and bow down to them when reciting the Naukar mantra, Arihant, Siddh, Acharya, Upadhyay, and Sadhu. But it is important to understand the real nature of all these entities that make them so great that Naukar mantra says, Eso pancha namukkaro sabba pavapanasano, manglanancha sabvesim padmam hoi manglam. That in anything that is auspicious, this namaskar to these 5 great entities is the most important, and it is the most auspicious. It has the power to destroy all your bad karmas and all your sins. Eso panchanamukkaro sabba pavapanasano. And it is the first mangal out of everything that is. Mangal means auspicious, and mangal means what will take you towards moksha. So having that spiritual respect and the reverence for this 5 will always help you realize your true potential. And the core of the understanding is that what our ultimate goal, spiritual goal is to achieve moksha, to achieve the state of our soul, which our Tirthankar Paramatmas and our Aryan Paramatmas have shown us as that which is possible, and that state is the Siddh state, when you are completely free of any encumbrance from any kind of karma. You are completely independent, and you are in your true nature, where all your happiness comes from within, all your knowledge comes from within, all your power comes from within. You're completely free, completely independent, and completely vitrag. You do not have any attachment, and you do not have any hatred. You have just universal peace, universal love, and absolute knowledge. So realizing that, and the path that the Acharya, Upadhyay, and the Sadhu Bhagwans are following. The Acharya Bhagwans are helping others to follow that path and ensuring that each one under their care is following that path to the best of their ability and what is possible. So the Acharya Bhagwans would have the responsibility of the Sangh of the other Muni Bhagwans in there. So they have the sort of spiritual mentoring, guiding responsibilities for all. The Upadhyay Bhagwans have the responsibility for teaching and interpreting the texts that teach us the right knowledge, and ensure that people grasp that and digest that and follow through that. And the Muni Bhagwans are following that and ensuring that their own development is following these paths. So Acharya, Upadhyay, and Sadhu, as in a recent sermon from Param Pujya Panyas Labdhi Vallabh Muni Bhagwant was saying, that the most important pad to understand is the Siddh pad, because all other pads are where the spiritual journey is going into. So very briefly, that is the importance of Aryan Siddh Acharya Upadhyay Sadhu. Darshan Gnan Charitra Tap. Darshan is the true faith in the absolute knowledge of the nature of our being, on the right Dev, the right Guru, and the right Dharma to follow. So that is darshan. Then there is gnan, that is the right knowledge, the right understanding of what is right and what is wrong, and what is true and what is untrue, in terms of our belief that we are the body, that is the untruth, that we are the spirit is the truth. So again, darshan, gnan, charitra is following by that knowledge and that faith and putting that into practice. Charitra and tap is again recognizing the true nature of the soul and withdrawing from any sensual pleasures, recognizing that those are not part of you, and that is tap. And that again, tap is divided into 12 different parts. 6 called baya, that is visible from outside, and 6 are abhyantar, meaning that you practice within yourself. What are the physical benefits of the Ayambil Oli? The food that we eat during those times when the changes of the season has probably got great healing powers. I mean, just from my knowledge and understanding of the way we live and the effect that food and other things have on us, it is my belief that the physical benefits of, say, changing our diet completely for 9 days, twice a year, would have a great detoxing effect on our bodies and significantly improve our physical health. I have no doubt that a lot of the people who regularly do Ayambil Oli are actually probably some of the healthiest people, and those who do that for much longer who do say Navpad only for about 4.5 years are probably in superb shape physically. And the environmental impact of all this, meaning your spiritual awareness, your spiritual practice, and the reduction in the harmful activities around you, and the joy and peace that it spreads around, obviously has environmental impact. So the festival is a great of great importance. And that's all I wanted to say about that. If there are any questions, very quickly, we passed about 20 minutes past 9. I'll stop sharing my slides now. Nilma?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you said something about Ayambil Oli is there forever. However, the Paryushan is just during our time. So why there is a wider awareness of Paryushan and not Ayambil? Just for myself, it's only like last 15, 20 years I've become aware of Ayambil, but Paryushan obviously has been there from the time I was little.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how it's been. And if you're looking at permanent meaning over every time cycle, the nature of festivals change, but the Ayambil Olis do not change. So the Paryushan festival was something that is unique to our times. Whether something similar or exactly the same is repeated or present elsewhere in the future or was present in the past, that's something that I don't know. But they would be similar festivals. But what is described in the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika is je biji badi je 28 છે, all the others are, apart from the Ayambil Oli, are not Saswat. Saswat means permanent in that context. So our unawareness of the importance of the others is just the nature of our times. And then because Paryushan has been given great prominence, and which is right, because there is a whole set of improvement schedule during Paryushan that we greatly benefit from during those 8 days of Paryushan. And in many ways, the activities during Paryushan are probably easier for a lot of us to follow. Ayambil Oli probably requires a bit more discipline and to do it on a regular basis. So there are very disciplined people who are doing it, but there are people of great faith and practice who are performing and following all the religious festivals very diligently and very well. So it's just the nature of things. I don't have a full explanation of exactly where else. I mean, if Bharatbhai or Pratibha Ben, you know, please feel free to answer.
Thank you.
I haven't got anything to add, Ajitbhai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Pratibha Ben.
From my knowledge, મને એવું લાગે છે કે because of the આ કાળ પ્રતિક્રમણ વધારે આપણે જે બધા દોષો કરીએ એટલે પ્રતિક્રમણનું ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ વધારે દેવાયું, એટલે Paryushan is the time which everybody gets involved with પ્રતિક્રમણ. They are supposed to. Because આપણે નૈરોબીમાં ને તો બધાએ મોટું પ્રતિક્રમણ કરવા, નાના મોટા બધાને લઈ જતા ને કરતા. એટલે અહીંયા એ બધું એટલે મને એવું લાગે છે કે પ્રતિક્રમણને લીધે, અને અમારો જ્યાં હું રેગ્યુલર જાઉં છું ત્યાં દાદા ભગવાન બધું પ્રતિક્રમણ ઉપર બહુ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ આપે છે. એટલે આઈ ફીલ કે એટલે Paryushan વધારે ફેમસ છે પ્રતિક્રમણના હિસાબે. But there could be other things as well. It's nice question, so we can do more research.
એમાં જે ક્ષમાપનાનું જે
હા,
મહત્વ
એટલે
છે,
બધું આવી જાય
બરોબર.
પ્રતિક્રમણમાં, ક્ષમાપના ને બધું. હા.
So,
That's a good enough explanation.
but does that mean that do we not do pratikraman during Ambel if
No,
we're
no.
following Ambel?
The normal practice is Pratikraman morning and evening every day. So during Ambel as well, those who are following the Oli would regularly do a morning and an evening Pratikraman. And even during Paryushan, the standard practice is or should be morning and evening Pratikraman. But most of us just do the evening Pratikraman. But on a daily basis, morning and evening Pratikraman is standard practice for Shravaks and Shravikas, particularly during these festivals. So during Ayambil Oli, a lot of the regular people would be doing Pratikraman morning and evening.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And there are other aradhanas associated with it. So on a daily basis, there are 20 Badi Naukarwari of each pad. So then, and there are other things that need to be done if you're following the whole practice properly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Meera Kavit, on the chat?
I've not received any questions.
Okay. Then we'll bring this to an end. We've got a class next week, but I think the following week we'll probably I'll be away, so you'll see the announcement that Ajitbhai is taking a couple of classes in my absence. And we'll carry on with this topic when I get back, but we'll be here next week. If I've said anything that is against the teachings of our great Jinas, of Tirthanga Paramatmas, I ask for forgiveness. Shiragna વિરુદ્ધ કંઈ પણ બોલ્યું હોય, કેવા એ વિચાર આવ્યો હોય, તે સભી હું મનુષ્યને કાય કરી તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ સર્વમંગલમાંગલ્યમ સર્વકલ્યાણકાरणम પ્રદાનમ સર્વધર્માણામ જૈનમ જયતિ શાસનમ. Have a nice rest of the week. See you all next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Pranam Ajitbhai, thank you.
Jai Jirendra, thank you.
Jai Jirendra.
शासननी रक्षा